these things, I would definitely tell you to keep these things available to you in all of your planning sessions and all of your PLCs. All right, so we're going to keep going. So again, so we talked about domains and dimensions. This information is available to anybody. If you go to the T-TESS website, which is Texas, teachertexas.org. I had it on the other slide. I'm so sorry. But it has all of these different things, and it's not a secret. Anything that the administrators know, it's not a secret. Everything is all in there. I'm going to be able to show you where to go to look for those resources. But anything that you're looking at, it's there. It's anything that your administrator has that they're required to follow. All of those things, those tools and those resources are there. But going back to the domains, so we know that we have 4 domains, which is planning, instruction, learning environment, and professional practices and responsibilities. And then we also, underneath those domains, we have the dimensions. And under those dimensions is where I tell my teachers, this is where we should be looking at in PLC and planning. How do I get those things to manifest when it comes to my evaluation? Now, let's talk about planning for a minute. So we talk about standards and alignment, data and assessment, knowledge of students, and activities. Where am I going to, as an administrator, where am I going to see that? Am I going to see that when I go into a classroom, like directly? Am I going to see the planning domain in action?
No, you would not see that. So at our campus, our administrators rotate coming to our planning.
So, and that's absolutely right. So in order for me to, now, will I see if good planning has happened if I come to a classroom? Absolutely. I could see if somebody has planned. I could see if, good planning has happened prior to, but if I want to actually see planning in action, I have to come to a planning session. I have to come to a PLC. So sometimes you may get a walkthrough that is at a planning session or a PLC, and they're coming to see that domain 1. So when you're doing domain 1, of course, you want to make sure, did I look at all of the standards, and are the standards aligned to the lessons that we're going to plan for? Data and assessment, do I have access to student data that is testing data, or am I looking at interim exams, STAR, ELC? Am I looking at any type of pre and post tests that need to happen? Am I looking at just any type of indicators that help me to know where my students are and what I need to do to grow them? And then, of course, knowledge of students. Do I know who I'm teaching? Do I know what groups I have? Do I have a large number of EBs? Do I have a large number of students who have a SPED indicator? Do I know if I have all of the students who fall under that umbrella of economically disadvantaged? So we have to know those things, because if I don't know my kids, if I don't know what they need, especially if I have students who have some type of label, then I may be missing out on giving those students certain services or certain strategies that are going to help them to be successful. And then, of course, activities. What are we planning for students to do? Is it just a sit and get? Am I the one doing all the lecturing? Or am I planning engaging lessons, and I have multiple activities that are going to meet the needs of the students and that are aligned to the TEKS that are going to help them to understand and, of course, meet their achievement goals? So, of course, that planning domain is important. And then instruction. This one is where we see, when we come in for the 15 or the 45, and it's actually in the classroom, we generally see domain 2 and domain 3. So we generally see instruction and the learning environment. So we are definitely looking for, are the students achieving the expectations that you have? Do we see that content knowledge and expertise from you? Is it positive communication happening? Are you differentiating for the students? And then if the students aren't getting it, which it will happen, it doesn't matter how great you are, how many years you have under your belt, it's going to be a time where you're going to be like, it's a certain group that just didn't get that. Did I plan to monitor and adjust? Did I plan for it? And think about that. Or, do I have the skills and the strategies and the different things in my toolbox to be able to adjust on the fly? Because there are going to be times where you're going to have to be like, okay, well, based on whatever mini assessment I've given them, or any type of formative assessment that I've given the students, is going to show me if they did a quick little quiz, or their bell ringer shows me that they don't remember what they did from yesterday or from the last time I met with them. I need to know how to monitor and adjust and help them to be able to get what they need so that we can be prepared for instruction that day. And then, of course, the learning environment. A lot of times you'll hear this is all about classroom management, right? So classroom environment, routines and procedures, managing student behavior, and classroom culture. So remember before I told you that you always need to be a part of your conferences, right? Because the last domain, professional practices and responsibilities, this is where you get to show everything that you've done throughout the year. This is where you would advocate for yourself. This is where your artifacts need to be. Definitely, of course, it needs to be there for all of your domains, but professional practices and responsibilities, this is where you can really show where, hey, I'm beyond proficient on this, because this is where professional demeanor and ethics falls in. Goal setting, did I meet my goals? Do I have my artifacts that show that I met my goals that I planned for at the beginning of the year? Professional development, hey, I have my whole list of professional development that I went to. Make sure you get your copy of your certificate today, because that goes into your T-TESS binder. If you don't have one, you go ahead and make one, or a digital one. And then school community and involvement, because are you a sponsor? Are you a coach? Do you assist on any committees or anything else? All of those things need to be chronicled so that you can have those artifacts that help you to go from proficient to all of the higher levels that we want you to get to. So now that we kind of understand that, are there any questions about the domains and the dimensions? Or do you have a particular situation that you want to ask about with the domains and dimensions? No? Okay, well, we'll keep on going. Okay, so this is one of my favorite parts, because I try to always stay active and involved and knowledgeable of, I never wanted to be that person or that administrator that forgot my roots in the classroom. So the descriptors always were my favorite part to talk about, because it actually tells you what we should do in order to get to the different levels of past proficient to accomplished to distinguished. So the descriptors are telling you, hey, these are the things that you need to do in order for your administrator to be able to document what they see during your observation, because they actually see you adapting lessons to address individual needs of all students, or they actually see you regularly monitoring the quality of student participation and performance. They see you recognizing when students become confused or disengaged in response to student learning or social emotional needs. But just know that although some of these may look the same when it comes to different levels, there are some differences. So notice, and most of the time it's in the adjective. Is it some, all, few? Just know that all of those things are in the descriptors, and it will let you know where where you fall when it comes to those levels. So you definitely want to, if I wanted to be a distinguished teacher within Dimension 2.4 under differentiation, I would have to make sure that I've adapt lessons with a wide variety of instructional strategies to address individual needs of all students. So that means that you may have one strategy that you're killing it. You know how to use this strategy. It works for kids. But if it's just that one, am I going to get to that distinguished level? Probably not, because we have to use multiple strategies in order to show that we are meeting the needs of a variety of students. So consistently monitors the quality of student participation and performance. So notice from the other ones, it said regularly monitors. This one says consistently monitors. So we have to make sure that we are putting in our lessons, in our lesson plans, we're planning for the descriptors. So this is why the descriptors are important. That's why I said you should want to bring your rubric to your plannings and PLCs, because it tells you where you need to be and what you need to be planning for when it comes to your lesson plans. And it'll help you to be able to get to those different levels, those higher levels that you want to get to. So also, I know you see this little circle making its way around. If you look at any of the resources that are on the T-TESS website, you'll see that it has sources of evidence, which basically, where am I going to be able to see these things? So I will be able to give these sources of evidence in the pre-conference. That's why I say don't skip your conferences, okay? And throughout the formal observation. So during the pre-conference, I can give my administrator my lesson plans. I could talk to them about what we've done in PLC, if we've done any at-bats where we were practicing our craft and all those different things with the various strategies. I can give them a copy of the strategies that I'm going to use. Those are all artifacts that you are proving that you are going to be engaged in these things. And let's say that your administrator doesn't come when you're utilizing some of those things. You want to say, hey, I know you came during this period, or I know you came during this particular class and you got this part of the lesson cycle. But as we were going through that cycle, these are the things that I did for my students. And you have those artifacts that you can talk at the pre-conference and the post-conference to tell the administrator what the full totality of that cycle actually look like. Again, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to be your own advocate and say, here are my artifacts. Here are the things that I'm showing you. I'm showing you student work. I'm showing you different things. And just to plug here, I know everybody's not a social media person, or you may not want to be on Twitter or, well, it's X now and all that other stuff, but you may want to develop a professional account. Of course, ensure that all of your students have signed all of their, things, but get your students into work, take pictures of it, show how they're doing it. You might be able to video a student that's doing some sort of teaching moment for their peers or anything else. That's a part of your artifacts. Those are things that you can show that helps you to be able to get to whatever level you're trying to get past proficient. And just know that I keep saying past proficient, because although proficient is absolutely rock solid teaching, if you get proficient all the way down, good job, good for you. But if you're trying to become a TIA qualified teacher and you're trying to get those TIA designations, proficient all the way down will not get you there. So the whole objective, of course, is to get past proficient. We have to want to get some accomplished. We have to hopefully possibly get those distinguished as well. Any questions so far?
Hello?
Bobby
Yes.
has a question.
Oh, yeah, I posted it in the chat as well. I was wondering, one of the things that's on my mind typically when I look at the performance level descriptors is the verbiage. And I posted the question in the chat if you could give some clarification, and probably I'll have some on other words as well, but the difference between regularly and consistently.
Absolutely. So okay, what is the difference between regularly and consistently? Okay, awesome. Thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
Uh-oh. Can y'all still see my screen? No, the presentation?
Yes.
You
Yes.
can? Okay, awesome. Okay, so when we talk about regularly versus consistently, so most of us will regularly monitor our, like, let's say we're on monitor and adjust. So when we say regularly, we're talking about, okay, through pretty much throughout the lesson cycle, I've stopped, I've paused, I've checked on the students, I've done this, and then I go into something else. But when we talk about consistently, that means that I have planned to have those moments, not just, yes, I'm going into, but consistently means that I have planned to have moments where I am checking on student progress. I've put in all of those systems and procedures in place that have students following all of those different cycles of learning within the lesson cycle. So when we talk about the difference between regularly and consistently, we're saying that I have a procedure, I have a process, I have all of these different things that are in place, and you can see that detail, that attention to detail within those procedures and those practices that I have in my class that are consistent in my flow of my lesson. Whereas regular monitoring, it's still good. It's still, good teaching, but I'm kind of spot checking. I'm doing the different things that I need to do for those students. But when we talk about consistently, when we're getting to that distinguished point, we're talking about having, that stellar procedures and practices in place, and it's evident throughout the entire lesson cycle. So I hope that kind of gave a little bit of difference, but
That was great. Thank you.
okay. So, but I will say this, notice that there is the same thing under proficient and accomplished, right? So when we say regular monitoring, the quality of student participation and performance, it's the same thing under accomplished. So I used to get this question all the time. Claudia, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
There's a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let me look again. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I was trying to keep the okay, so I see I missed a whole bunch. Shame on me. Okay. Yes, and that is the website. Thank you, Claudia, teachertexas.org. Okay, evidence needs to be submitted. Yes. What is the difference between regular? Okay, hold on. I have a question. We were told that they had to score us all proficient. Was that not true? I have never only been scored so low until last year. Okay, so there it is. So that's a great question, and I definitely want to get into this. So an administrator is supposed to start at proficient. It doesn't mean that everybody has to be proficient, but we start at proficient. So in everything that we're looking at, we're looking to see, is this person a proficient teacher? So based on the rubric, based on all of the descriptors and everything else. Now, remember that T-TESS is objective. So and I'll tell you this as a former administrator, I had to scribble and write and do all of the things. I had to write everything that I was seeing in a classroom, because it's objective. It's supposed to be, this is what I see at this particular moment in time. So depending on what is seen and what they see at that particular moment, that decides, do I stay at proficient? Do I move to the left and go higher than proficient? Or do I need to move to the right and go lower than proficient? And in certain cases, there are times where we have to move to the right because the teacher may be doing a good job of, rendering the information, but doesn't match what is in that rubric. Are most students, or is it just a few students? Is it Are all of the students engaged? Are we addressing just a certain group of kids or a few over here and just a few over there? How are we trying to ensure that everyone, so just know that, no, everybody, you're not supposed to be just a proficient teacher. Just, that's not what the administrator is required to give. We are supposed to start, when we start the evaluation, we are supposed to start at proficient and figure out if we need to stay in the middle or move to the right or the left. Now I will tell you this, and I know this, it's kind of hard to hear sometimes, but I did try to be very transparent with my teachers. Depending on where you are, when it comes to your campuses and, the level of instruction throughout the campus and everything else, when we look at, that's why that planning domain 1 is important, understanding your students, understanding where they are and how you're growing them, because I had a assistant soup tell me this, and it kind of stuck with me. It definitely stuck with me as an administrator, just as an educator in general. They said, if we have a campus full of proficient teachers, then our accountability should reflect it. And that really made me think, and they said, if we have a campus, if proficient is rock solid, and we have a campus full of proficient teachers, and I'm not saying that you're not, for the person who did the question, I'm not saying that you're not a proficient teacher. I definitely would love to talk to you. I'll give you my contact information. We can talk offline about, anything that you would like to discuss when it comes to your evaluation. But just know that a lot of times it's not just about, that day in that classroom, in that lesson. They're looking at multiple different factors. So we do have to look at, assessment. We have to look at student growth. We have to look at all of those different things. And that's, of course, a part of the domain 1, which is the planning. And we have to understand where our kids are. Are we growing those students? Are the students taking advantage of the resources that you're providing them? All of those different things play a big part. So just know that, no, administrators are not required to give everybody proficient, but they are supposed to start in the middle and then move from side to side. Okay. But that was a great question. Because that is often a misconception across the board of what administrators are supposed to do.
I had a quick question on that to kind of piggyback. So last year I was told that things were a little different due to it's the new way that we're all getting observed now due to the I guess the funding or something like that. So does that have an impact due to that, or because that's what they were saying, like too many people were being categorized as kind of like what you were just speaking on, I guess maybe accomplished, but yet their STAR results didn't show that. So
that's, yes. So TIA has definitely made people evaluate how they are. TIA has made administrators be more cognizant of how are they actually following the true spirit of T-TESS? And I can tell you, as a former administrator, I used to, so when they started talking about TIA, we would have to be trained as administrators. We would go through different trainings, and they would actually look at they would, run a data report and see where everybody was as an administrator with everybody that we appraised. So we would be in AP Academy and we'd see everybody across the district, and we would see where everybody was rating their teachers. And, of course, as administrators, we look and be like, oh man, you're a little mean, you're a little harsh, or we would see somebody at the other level and be like, are you even going into classes? And actually giving a accurate, evaluation. And some of you will know, and I know I'm probably gonna get some head nods and everything else, but some of you know there's an administrator on your campus that you hope that you get them as your T-TESS appraiser, right? Because you're like, oh, they're not gonna stay the whole 45 minutes. They just making sure that I got my classroom under control, and that's you know, they're just making sure that the kids are engaged, and I'm on it, right? And that's not that that's a bad thing, but we have to make sure that instruction is actually happening, because that's the purpose of the whole process, is instruction actually happening that's impacting student achievement. And we have to make sure that our students are growing, and we have to make sure that they are meeting their goals and objectives. So one of the biggest things that has happened in the last couple of years when it comes to the administrator side is, hey, they've had candid conversations with administrators, like, you can't be that easy person that everybody wants to, oh, I want this person to be my evaluator. You have to follow the rubric. It can't be, you know, oh, well, I know this person, I know they're a solid teacher, I'm just gonna give them this, you know, play tic-tac-toe on the rubric thing and go, you know, zigzag between proficient and accomplished, and pow, you're done. It has to be, do I actually see those things? And I think that has been the biggest shift in the last couple of years, because it has been that, hey, if we're about to get to this point where teachers are about to qualify for TIA and these designations that can possibly get them to get this money to show that they've done this great job, which you should. And the whole reason why I wanted to be a part of this, and in me not being a campus administrator anymore, is because I wanted to help people to get to that point. And a lot of times when we do those beginning of the year trainings, you're not getting into the nitty gritty and talking about, hey, what does it take for me to get to this point? How am I going to help my kids so that because remember, T-TESS is just the first gate. So once you get out the first gate, then you have to have the student growth component and the scores in order to get the TIA accomplishment. So remember, TIA is just the first gate. And a lot of people can't get out the first gate. But even if they got out the first gate, do they meet the student growth requirement and the student achievement requirement in order to meet those TIA designations? So just know that what I'm trying to talk about tonight is just how do you be better at your craft so that you can show that, hey, I deserve to be at this point. Because everybody on this call tonight, everybody that's looking at these presentations, you know that you know how to grow kids. You know how to do your due diligence to help to get kids to where they need to be. And if you can show, if your students can perform, then you also need to make sure that you've done your due diligence to show that you've done everything humanly possible to get out of gate one, which is T-TESS. Okay. Great questions, great dialogue. Anybody else?
There are more questions in the chat.
Oh, let me go to the chat. Okay, yes, ma'am. Let me go to the chat. Okay. So, at the chat, okay. Is there a good or bad? How will this T-TESS affect us in the long term? Okay, so depending on, so T-TESS is something that is used to, of course, evaluate instruction, to give feedback, to impact instruction, all of those different things. But sometimes, depending on where you go, I've had teachers, as a matter of fact, in my new role that I'm in right now as Director of Research Assessment and Data, my department is over at Euphoria, which keeps all of the evaluations and all of the professional development, all of those things that are captured within there. And I've had multiple teachers ask us for their previous evaluations and everything else, because some districts require that. They require to see, you know, what you were, what your performance was in your previous district. So just know that that's possible when it comes to T-TESS. And so when we talk about is there a good or bad, it's not a necessarily, remember that this is a tool to help instruction. It's a tool to help with, to give feedback and it's supposed to help you to impact your instruction. But if multiple times administrator has come in and that person is more so on the right side of proficient than they are on the left side of proficient, or proficient or to the left, then there is they may have to put, certain measures in place to help impact instruction, because of course the goal of the game is to impact student achievement. Okay, so then I also see, what if growth and achievement do not match your T-TESS? Can we fight that evaluation if we had lots of growth yet only get proficient across the board? So that is something that has definitely been in there's been a lot of discussion about that because, and I'm just going to be completely honest, as a former administrator, I never wanted to be that person that blocked the opportunity for a teacher to get to that TIA point. So the various things that you can, of course, you have the opportunity to give your feedback about your evaluation. You have the opportunity to talk about your assessments and everything else that have happened throughout the year. Of course, you won't be able to see the assessments unless it's localized assessments that pre and post tests that show the growth. For most core academics, you won't see it until you get your STAR EOC scores back. But just know that there are measures to of course advocate for yourself when it comes to not getting out of gate one with T-TESS, but having exponential student growth. Let's see. The second gate, SGM, is where I'm hitting a brick wall year after year. Okay, so the student growth measure. So that is, I can imagine that's that's always a tedious task. It's always one that gives us heartbreak sometimes, because you're like, I've done my best. We're hoping that on this one assessment or two assessments, that we're hoping that we can see that students have made growth. So just know that those things are, when we talk about student growth measure, I would definitely encourage you to understand what your what the accountability system is, because that growth measure is what has, not just for teacher growth, sometimes that growth component, that domain 2, when it comes to campus accountability, has saved campuses. Like your domain 1 could be an F and your domain 2 can be an A, and then all of a sudden your campus is a B. Now, we haven't seen campus accountability in a while because it's been caught up in litigation for the last couple of years. But just know that we definitely have ways to show that our students are making growth. And you want to know, and a lot of times it's like, oh, well, I may not ever get my kid to approaches, or I may not ever get these kids to meets or masters. But where was the kid before? Did they get to almost approaches? Like, were they bottom of the barrel at one point and then they got to almost approaches? That still impacts your student growth measure. So just know that I'm gonna be honest, because a lot of teachers, they would say, oh, I want, the GT kids, or I want, and it's not to say that you can't have those kids, because they can make growth too. But I'm gonna be honest, if I was a teacher right now, and for the entirety of my teaching career, I had all of the students that needed to make exponential growth. I had students who had those labels that, they needed the most support. And I would definitely want to still be in that classroom because I can definitely show how I've made that growth for those students. So I'm going to talk to you about some tools tonight, but you definitely want to, if you're thinking about your student growth measure, you want to, and that's domain 1, right? So anything that you're doing within domain 1 where you're looking at, do you know your students? Do you know assessments and all of those different things? If you're looking at that and you know, okay, where do I need to get every one of my students? Then it'll help you to be able to know where your kids will possibly be when it gets to the point where they take whatever final assessment that is going to impact that student growth measure. But I could probably do a whole training on student growth measures like by itself. I'll talk to Jamie and Claudia and see if we could do that one. But it's definitely something like it's a science to it. It really is a science to the student growth measure. So I feel that scheduling what sections you teach and how many of those sections really impact. It does. I'm be totally honest. It does. It definitely impacts that because again, like I'm gonna be honest, I would not want GT students because it's harder to keep them at meets and masters than it is to move them up towards that, right? So I definitely wouldn't, I would not want to have, I hate to say it, I would not want to have those students. But it's not that they can't move. I mean, because I know that some of y'all are, all of y'all are excellent educators, but some of y'all probably have a knack for keeping your kids. If you have those GT and STEM and IB students, all of those different things, you have a knack for keeping them where they need to be. But you know, depending on what group of students you have, if you have a variety of students, it gives you a variety of ways to meet that student growth measure. But if you just have a group of high achieving students, and they have a bad day, and they were, you know, and they were at meets or masters last year, and then the next year they go to approaches, then you know, that student growth measure is impacted at that point. Okay. How are non-tested high school subjects measuring student growth for TIA purposes? That's a great question. Okay, so last year,
sorry,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Sorry, before you answer that question, I just wanted to apologize in advance. I know it's a little off topic, but whatever time you have to offer your feedback would be great. Thank you.
Say that one more time. Is it a question that's in the chat?
Yes, but I would understand if it needed to be addressed later for the sake of time.
Okay, no worries. Absolutely, no worries. So we have another one. Let's see. Uh-oh, did I miss some people? Okay, yes. Anybody, I will stay on after if you have any direct questions you want to ask me, because I live for this, y'all. I really I want to help teachers to get to if y'all get TIA because of this, I just, you can take me to Luby's. You can take me to Old Lady Lunch. I'm okay with it. Okay. All right.
Can you post your email in the chat? I'm sorry, or if you haven't seen it, if you haven't shared it yet.
Yes, I'll have all that information on the last slide. I believe I put it on there, but I will put my email on there too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see. I'm known as the data queen. I collect it all and look at it all, and it affects every aspect of my teaching. Absolutely. I'm still currently the data queen. But I'm over all things PEIMS data, and Ed5 scares me right now, y'all. But just know. But yes, you have to keep and data is important. And showing people that you understand the data is important, because sometimes you can go in there with all of your artifacts and everything else, and you might even, scare your administrator because they're like, oh, I didn't know. Yeah, tell me more about this. Okay. Because I'm gonna be honest, I taught, when I was in the classroom, I taught English and I taught history, right? When I would meet with my science and math teachers, especially my math teachers, they get to running those numbers and everything else. And I was just like, okay, keep going. Yes, these are the artifacts that I need to see in order for me to be able to move you from proficient to accomplished, because you're showing me that you have done your due diligence to understand where your students need to be in their growth. So just know that that's important. Okay, let's see. How are non-tested high school subjects measuring? Okay, so that's really important, okay, because last year I was the CTE data analyst, CTE data coordinator, and SIS trainer for the district prior to me moving into this role. And I had to tell my CTE teachers, because a lot of them have, they're not used to, I'm not a core subject. We don't have anything. But if your district has done what they needed to do to get the pre and post tests, if you could show that student growth from those approved pre and post tests, and you showed how students have made that progress throughout the year, then you could possibly qualify for TIA as well. We've had multiple CTE teachers, different elective teachers, but you have to have an approved pre and post test in order to show that student growth measure. So that should be a component. Whoever's over your teacher evaluation and TIA within your district, you want to ask them, hey, what's been approved? Because all of these things go through Texas Tech, I believe, to ensure that the assessments are accurate, and we're not just given, something that we just decided to make yesterday and we're giving it to kids and it's supposed to measure their growth. It has to be approved. It has to go through a process. But as long as you have that pre and post and you can show that you've had significant growth by a variety of students, then that qualifies as your student growth measure. All right. Let's see. All right. My struggle is that my retesters do not count on TIA. I think the state is going to look at that because most retesters have to be a part of some sort of intervention, some sort of class that helps them so that they can pass again. So I do think that that's going to change. I can't promise that, but I do think that that's going to be something that changes. Okay, Tia, that's a great question. Listen, I'm just over here shouting out acronyms and didn't talk about what it was. So teacher incentive allotment. Okay, so this is where, they got everybody all excited. Oh, thank you, Claudia, for putting that on there. It got everybody excited because they was like, oh, you can get a 6-figure salary, staying in the classroom, because we want great people in the classroom. So yes, this helps to get, we had multiple teachers in our district to get our first round of TIA allotment funds. And I was really excited for them, but I want to see more teachers qualify for it, because let me tell you this, and it's your district wants you to get it. Let me tell you why. Because not only does the teacher get money, the district gets certain funding that they can use for resources and different things, depending on how many TIA designated teachers that they have. So just know that it's a win-win for both the teacher and the district if they have multiple TIA teachers. So when you talk about like getting out of gate one, your administrators want you to get out of gate one. They want to help to give you feedback to impact you so that you can get out of gate one. But remember that they are also looking at what is our instruction doing that's impacting accountability. So remember, they are required to be instructional leaders. And in that instructional leadership, they have to look at the data and they have to say, hey, do I know that these kids are actually, do I see that student achievement and that student growth because they have been impacted by the instruction in your class? Okay. Okay, does that include 18+ programs? You know what? I'm gonna have to research that for you. So, Angela, if you would, I'm gonna give everybody my contact information. You'll have my email address. But Angela, I will definitely look into that, because we do have, so we talk about 18+ programs. Are you talking about on the our students who have a SPED indicator, or are you talking about like our CASE programs with students who are have alternate education platforms? I think she may be typing, so I'm gonna come back to it. Another question is true that only a couple of teachers at each campus will qualify for TIA, or has the percentage of teachers who qualify for TIA increased over the years? It has definitely increased. If you look at Aldine ISD, I think had like 600 some teachers that qualified for it. Now, granted, I know that percentage, you're probably gonna be like, but Broussard, they're like the 12th largest district in the state, right? But that's still a lot. There's still a lot of people who qualified. So it's not a, there's not a limit on who can qualify. It's just the amount of people who actually get out of gate 1 and gate 2. Does Texas Tech just do data verification, or do they do the test validation as well? They do both. Yes. Do TIA pre and post tests assess the same content with the same items? It has to match the TEKS component of whatever class that it is a part of. So the pre and post tests, they don't have to look the same, but they do have to cover basically the same TEKS components that was covered in the pre-test. Okay, yes, SPED. Angela, I'm definitely going to look that up for you, because I would think that does that would qualify. I would think, but it's not fresh on my brain. I haven't looked at it, so I definitely I will look that up for you. Okay, definitely will. Okay, CT now. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going, y'all, because I want y'all to get all of these resources that I got for you. And I don't want to keep y'all on too long. Let me hide this. Okay, so documenting your delivery. So this is what, and I've kind of already been like preaching this whole be your own advocate, because remember that you have to tell people. So think about this. I was in a middle school. I was administrator in a middle school with close to 1,300 students, and there were 5 administrators. We had over 120 teachers. So remember, your administrator has a load of teachers that they're responsible for. So they're probably going to give you your 3 walkthroughs and 1 evaluation, right? So one observation, they're not going to see everything within that 3 and 1. So you have to document. You have to keep your own artifacts, so that when it's time for your pre and post conferences, which, what did I tell you before? We are never giving those up, okay? Even if you have to, have a walk along with your administrators, which I used to do that a lot with some of my teachers. I'd be like, hey, you want to walk with me so we can do this pre-conference? Just because, again, administrators, they're very busy people, but y'all are too, and we have to respect your time as well. But just know that you want to have everything that you need in order to show that you have met all of your goals and you have done your due diligence to meet those descriptors within T-TESS. So how do you advocate for yourself? You have those artifacts. You chronicle your instructional cycle. And remember, T-TESS is objective. One of my former bosses used to tell me all the time, it's facts over feelings. Facts over feelings. So I could have thought that I rocked this, lesson on the American Revolution. I used to love teaching American Revolution, right? And listen, if Hamilton was out when I taught American Revolution, I would have killed it even more. I would have been on the distinguished side, right? But just know that, again, but I have to show that not only did I do a good job of engaging students, that I differentiated and I monitored and I adjusted and I had good communication and all of those different things. What does my formative assessment tell me that I did as a result of student learning? Does it show that? Did I even provide opportunities to have formative assessments to analyze what my students know and what they're learning throughout the lesson cycle? So you want to make sure that you're planning for those things, but you also want to make sure that you're showing that data that shows, hey, the kids got this. I taught it and they got it. So you want to make sure that you have those artifacts in place. This is just some resources. Now I'm going to tell you, I was, queen of finding resources that were not necessarily in Texas, but it relates to what we have. This was actually, I think this is from Arkansas, but they have something that's similar to our T-TESS, and I loved this list because it basically told you what your artifact should be when it comes to the different types of things that we have within the rubric. So communicating with students, what are artifacts that shows that you communicated with students? And here it is, lesson plans, unit of study, graphic organizers, expectation for learning charts, printed directions and procedures, modification plans. All of those different things shows how you communicated with students. And I'm going to, and Claudia will have the link to this presentation, but when you click on any of this, it'll take you to the, it's probably gonna pop up right now. So it's gonna take you to the actual link where this, so theirs isn't called T-TESS because they're not Texas, right? But theirs is TESS. So just know that they have a lot of resources that shows examples of those artifacts. Okay. And then, so we also have, so these are also other resources that show you, like under professional demeanor and ethics, evidence of teacher complying with all professional standards. Like, where is that? What do you have that shows that that can be an artifact? So when you have your post-conference, now remember, that's a whole nother thing. Your post-conference, when you get to your post-conference and you get your full T-TESS evaluation and you go in with your artifacts, that means that, based on what your administrator sees, that doesn't mean that your observation has to be stagnant. If you're showing that, hey, I have all of these things and you gave me proficient on here, but I'm showing you that this is what we were able to do, and throughout the year, I'm showing this growth and all of these different things, then that gives you the evidence that you need to state your case of why you may need to be moved from just proficient over to the left. Okay. I know I'm going quickly, y'all. I'm sorry, but if I need to stop, if I'm missing something in the chat, let me know. Okay. Oh yes, the recording will be available. I hope, and like I said, I'll give you everybody my contact information so that if you need to contact me, please do. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I was so impressed with this man's website, his evidence website. I was like, if I was an administrator and this man showed me his website, first off, I couldn't see myself not being in his class and, of course, taking my objective notes and not having him get more than proficient. But even if I did give him proficient all the way down and he came to me with this website, I would have definitely had to increase his score because he was so meticulous in his artifacts. So I'm going to actually click on his link. And like I said, you'll have access to this, but just know that, so this guy, he's a Texas teacher, and he had all of his resources in here. So his professional goals, notice this was a couple of years ago, but this was still, like, you could do this in a Google site, you could do this in anything. But his artifacts, his professional portfolio is all here. So he had, again, his professional goals were here. All of the things that he had for goal setting was there. Then he goes into evidence of achievement. So he has his data here, how it pertains to his goals, what progress he's made, even examples of lessons that come through all of those things. He has a screenshot of his progress of his T-TESS. He just has a screenshot of his Google Classrooms and what he's doing to impact instruction there. Just all the things. pictures of kids engaged in the activities. That's why I say you should probably have a professional social media account so you can chronicle all those things and be able to go back to it. But just know he had all of these different things there. And then he had artifacts from his lessons, artifacts from the different assessments that even his absences. He went into Frontline and took a picture of his absences. That's domain 4, y'all, professional accountability. So not that people, if you have the days, I know you want to take your days, but I'm just saying, you know, he put all of those different things there, right? Emails that he had to send, anything that impacts any type of domain activity. So 4.3, he's talking about all of the things like how did he Avid, impact Avid, all of those different things. He was an NHS sponsor, I think, or maybe he was all of the things. He's got all of it there. He even has his professional development, any certificates. So I was, again, when I found this, I was really impressed with this guy. And then he goes through the learning process, puts all of that information there. And then he even had his future plans and projections. So what he wants to do when it comes to all of the future things, and then his evidence of achievement, showing that student growth, he has that information there as well. So just know that if you're going to chronicle all of your things, this is a great way to do it. Again, you could do it through this Bulb site. You could do it through Google Sites. You can, you know, do it in a PowerPoint or anything else, but keep your artifacts so that you can have that when it's time for you to have those conferences with your administrators.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions about this? At this point, I'm just giving you some resources that will help you to be an expert at artifacting. Okay. That is not a word. I just made that up. Okay. Expert at artifacts. Wait, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just clicking on. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here are some strategies that I want to talk about that could possibly help you to get from proficient to move to the left to accomplished and distinguished. So how many of you are familiar with Lead Forward? Anybody have anything positive to say about Lead Forward, or negative? It's okay. We can vent here.
Right here.
Yes, go ahead. How do you use Lead any type of Lead Forward resources?
I'm actually going to use one tomorrow called Play It, Say It. It's good to connect like visual and verbal aspects of a lesson. So you present kiddos with some pictures of things, and they give you a response based on some options. And that's the play it part. And then they share their responses. That's the say it part. And they discuss them with like some sentence stems. It's on there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm certain it is. I love it. Okay. So you are into the instructional strategies playlist. So I'm actually kind of jealous because they've added so many since I was in the classroom. But two of my favorite when I was in the classroom that were like guaranteed to get the kids engaged, but also to ensure that they understood what we were talking about and I could use it as a formative assessment, was the IQ slapdown and the high five summary. So Lead Forward, this is free, completely free, has an instructional strategies playlist, and it helps you to include these in your lessons. And you can manipulate this for any classroom, any content. But it also tells you see the titles up here. It says movement and discourse, rehearsal and practice, extended thinking, learning from your mistakes, and then evidence of learning. So IQ Slapdown was one of my favorites, and you can do this. You don't need a whole bunch of prep. You can basically give kids 4 sticky notes or 4 note cards. They put ABC on it, ABCD on it, and you just find questions that are multiple choice. But of course, kids think that, oh, multiple choice is going to be easy for me to answer. I just got to find the right answer. But IQ Slapdown requires them to be engaged, and it tells them like, so the very first question that you ask them is, okay, so you read the question, here's what, your answer choices are. So my first question to you is, what is the absolute wrong answer? And they're like, oh, wait, I thought you were going to ask us what the right answer was, right? So what is the wrong answer? So they pick up one of their cards, the first person they can slap down, whatever they think the wrong answer is, and then they give their justification. And that's the biggest piece that helps them with that higher order thinking skills and helping them to be able to process through those things. So it's like, hey, I need to know why this is wrong, why this doesn't connect. Then the next question would be, what is the distractor? What do they want you to pick, but it's not right? So you know, 1, 2, 3, slap it down. Who has it? Yes, this is, you know, C is the answer. They want you to pick that answer, but it's not right. So what have you helped the kids to do just by asking those first 2 questions? They've eliminated answers. They've given themselves a 50-50 chance of getting that question right. And then, of course, the last question you ask them is, okay, what is the answer to this question? And then, of course, you still do that justification piece afterwards. But Lead Forward does an excellent job of giving you all of these resources, and then look at what it has on here. This is why I love these, because it helps you to, it helps with domain 1, domain 2, and domain 3. So it helps with domain 1 because it has the think it up. So that helps with your planning piece. The differentiation, that's domain 2. It helps with the how you can differentiate for different groups. And then domain 3, it has classroom management. It tells you how you can manage the class when you're using these particular strategies. So all of those things, could I use this as an artifact? Absolutely. I can put this in my resources, give this to my administrator and say, hey, you know, during this lesson, I did this, that, and the third. This is how I was able to manage the classroom. This is how I was able to differentiate for those students. And this is how I was able to expand their learning through these Think It Up processes. So just know that you can go to Lead Forward. Just you can, in any Google search, put in instructional strategies playlist for Lead Forward, and it should pop up immediately for you. And every one of these things is a hyperlink to one of these cards that gives you exactly how to do it. Okay, so I'm about to get on my AI kick, y'all, because listen, as a 20-year educator, when I first got into education, they gave me a lesson plan template and a teacher's edition and said, go forth and conquer. Okay. So if I had the tools that AI has now I'm not saying that AI is not foolproof. I'm not saying that AI is foolproof, because it's not. There are a lot of issues that you know, you deal with AI and everything else. But there are some excellent tools that you can use with AI that will help your instruction in the classroom, but it'll also help your planning. So is anybody, and I would love to hear if you are using any AI tools in your classroom right now, and just tell me how it's impacted your instruction. Anyone?
I have.
Okay.
I use, of course, Chat GPT, but there's also another one called Magic School AI.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing a lesson and you want, you know, the cub and all that good stuff, you could ask the question to help you out, but it also gives you like a DOK questions. You can go down there, even do parent emails, professional emails. It gives you tests. I mean, it's Magic School is phenomenal. It gives you test questions, and I'm an art teacher. And it's great. It's great.
I
I'll
love
share as
it.
well if we have time.
All right, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, so in preparing for T-TESS and again, looking at the performance level descriptors, one of the ones that I found particularly challenging in the content area that I teach is making real world connections across multiple disciplines or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Magic School actually has a tool that will show you that prompt. Another area that I so like you just type in the content or the TEAC and they'll generate a list of relevant, like real world connections and connections across multiple disciplines and content areas. There's that. And then there's also the other one that I wanted to share was that um, in order to keep lessons engaging, the one part of the performance level descriptor describes needing to ask remember, understand, and apply level questions or something like that. Maybe you could help me clarify on the wording. So you just enter that descriptor into AI, ChatGPT, or whatever else, and it'll generate a list of questions that you can use throughout your lesson that meet characteristics.
Absolutely. So I thank you both for giving your experiences with these
Thank you
AI
for letting
tools.
me share.
Yes, absolutely. This is, and it's supposed like, I'm telling you, this is a great forum to help each other, because if I had this when I was still in the classroom, I think I'd probably still be there, and if Tia was available and all that other stuff, yeah, I'd still be, because I loved being an educator. I love teaching. And but there are so many tools now that can help us to improve our craft. And one of the things, like when I first learned about some of these tools with AI, and somebody told me that that AI would write a lesson plan for me. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And they were like, no, seriously. It's like, put all your teaks in there and tell it what level you want it to go through, and it's gonna write your lesson plan. And I was like, you can't be serious. I was like, so you're saying, and I'm not saying it's foolproof, because some of them you're just like, okay, that's a little mundane. That's not gonna be engaging for the kids. I might have to jazz that up. Or there's certain things that want to make sure that you're looking at to ensure that it's actually connected to the teaks and everything else. But it does an excellent job of helping you to plan. It does an excellent job of helping to bring engagement opportunities. It helps with differentiation. It just helps with a lot of different components that will bring about student achievement. So these are just some tools that I thought were beneficial. I know we talked about Magic School, and of course we talked about Chat GPT, but just know that there are several other tools that are available. Now, I will say this, and when I did this training before, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows these things. So some of these tools, they do have a free component and everything else, but some of them do require a paid component. But if you feel like, if you're in your PLCs and your plannings with your teams, and you feel like there's a tool that is going to help with student achievement, ask your administrators, do we have the funds to be able to utilize this particular program? Now, will they be able to get you everything that's on this screen right now? Probably not. But there was always, I know, as a campus administrator, when I was associate principal, I was over our campus improvement plan, and we would get comp ed funds to use for student achievement, student progress, all that other stuff. And by the end of the year, I was begging people, what do you need that is going to help kids? We still have this amount of money to spend. So if you're on any of those teams and you get, especially if you get comp ed or title funds, you definitely want to ask your administrators, is it possible for us to be able to use this if we're going to show how it impacts student achievement? And it's, impacting a certain group of students. So especially if it's impacting your EBs or your students that have a SPED indicator, or all of the different groups of students, especially when we're talking about our students that fall under that economically disadvantaged, all of those different things, it is important for your administrators to show that they've used all of their resources to impact student achievement. So if you find something that you think is going to be beneficial and you want to see the beyond free version, know that you have those options as well. Okay. So here are some other tools but I loved this one because it shows 15 ways to it shows 15 ways to use AI to enhance existing lessons. So instead of just showing, hey, this is the actual resource, it's telling you, hey, this is what you can do in order to use AI. So this first one says, ask AI assistant for a lesson plan, or ask AI image to generate, to create a lesson hook. AI image is also good. I had a friend that used AI image creator to the lovely lady that told me you were an art teacher. I had a friend was making a children's book and told them what they wanted, and it created a whole cover. I was like, what? You know, not that we want AI to make everything, you know, because it can't be Picasso or anything, but it could at least give you some tools that you're able to use, right? It's just a lot of different things. Like, get a YouTube video summary with Magic School AI. You have resources like Ask AI Assistant for real world connections and examples. We talked about that before. So these are just some prompts that'll help you to show you what AI can do for you when it comes to, now this is the kicker. This is what I want you to think about the next time you think about T-TESS, okay? Take those descriptors. Where do you want to be? You want to be distinguished? You want to be accomplished? Take those descriptors on the ones that you're having struggles with, or, you know, that you think that, you know, I just can't find an idea. Put that in these tools. It'll help you to be able to come up with examples that will that you'll be able to put into your lessons. So just know that there are multiple tools that can help you to be able to enhance your lesson when it comes to AI. Any comments? I'm gonna go to the comment section in just a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here, but I know that we had some questions that I need to answer in the chat. I'm going to keep this up. So this is my contact information, but I am going to answer the questions that I saw in the chat. But just know that I'm here for you all. If you ever want to reach out and you want me to help you with anything in regards to your T-TESS, but just know that you can that's my X Twitter handle, and that's also my email address. So if you want to get in touch with me, if you have any questions that you want to, you know, if you need any assistance, just know that that's where you can contact me. But let me go to the chat because I want to make sure I answered all of the questions that uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm so sorry, y'all. I missed okay. So here we go. Let's see. Okay, Claudia put that in there. Okay. Oh, thank you. What is the name of the site he used to post the materials? Can you give me a little bit more clarity on that one? I missed that one. Oh, the post the materials. Oh, look. Okay, see, it's that 41-year-old brain. Sorry, you know, it's millennial brain going to mush sometimes. So it was, I can go back to that. I'll tell you, but Google Sites is a good one. And you can use a plethora of different tools to chronicle your artifacts, but I'll go back to his. Okay. Okay. Yes. Lead Forward is amazing. It's a bootleg Kagan and PSYOP. Yeah, something like that. But yes, Kagan strategies are always good. PSYOP is as well. The instructional strategies playlist is going to be like, it truly is a game changer. And if you put, you know, if you just put 3 in there, when it comes to that part where it says, did you use multiple strategies? You could say, hey, 1, 2, 3, Lead Forward strategies. I know you saw it when you came in your 45 minutes. I hope you stayed the whole 45 minutes. It was there, right? Yes, Claudia will send out I'll send a link to the presentation. And yeah, Lead Forward it's always clutch, always clutch. Let's see. Yes, writing prompts, ChatGPT. Now you have to sometimes, because I know as professionals, sometimes we use ChatGPT to make sure we take the emotion out of emails. But if you ever done that, I know I have. I was like, okay, make sure I take all the emotion out of this email when I send it, right? But sometimes it sounds robotic. So you may want to kind of look at it to see, you know, where is it? What else do you need to add to it in order to soften it up a little bit? But yes, it's great for writing prompts. Brisk is amazing at creating slides in a very short time. Okay, Carol, you want to talk about Brisk? I would love to hear what Brisk does. And hey, Carol, I haven't seen you in forever, hon.
Yeah, I learned it real quick because I was like, okay, I need a lesson on, I don't remember what it was, because I teach a reading intervention class, and I was like, I'm gonna try Brisk. So I just type in the little box, and it's through Google Sites or Google Slides. So it's a Google thing. If you type in that little, you download it as a Google, what do they call it? Extension, sorry. I hate to and you just type in the box, like, I need a lesson on theme, tell them what grade level and how many slides. It does it for you. And then you can just go in and edit. So it saved me like hours of time.
Work smarter, not harder. Let me tell you what AI does. If it doesn't do anything else, it helps you to work smarter and not harder. And we can be utilizing our time more effectively on the delivery of this and doing the things that T-TESS says you're supposed to do during planning, right? Looking at your students groups. How am I going to group these students? Making sure I understand I know I'm going to have to put little Johnny in a small group because he's going to need some extra focus or he's going to need different things. So yes, it helps you to work smarter, not harder. I love that. Thank you. Yes, I'm following everybody on. As soon as I get all of these, we're about to be new friends. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I hope this was helpful with the artifacting. If nothing else, see, we making that's a word. I'm gonna get that on a shirt. Okay. My next T-TESS training, I'm gonna have artifacting on my shirt. But yes, if you don't do anything else, remember, don't skip your conferences, bring your artifacts. That's the biggest things. Okay. And yes, so I'm going to follow everyone, but if you want to stay on, I am done. I will say that this is the end of the presentation. I tried to fit as much as I can with talking about this, but I would love to, and I'll talk to Jamie and Claudia because you did talk about the student growth measures, and I think that is a big thing that we can definitely explore because there is definitely a science to it. So I will definitely talk to them about that. And then if you have any questions, just know that there's my contact information and please reach out to me. And I hope you gained at least a little bit of something in this time that we spent together. But I'm truly grateful that all of you decided to spend your wonderful Wednesday with me, wonderful Wednesday evening with me, so that I could talk to you about all these T-TESS tools. So just know, as a former administrator, all those years of being on the dark side, just know I want to use my platform to help as many people as possible. So again, if you get to be a designated teacher, I like the Luann platter, the fish, fried fish, and macaroni and cheese at Luby's. You can take it.
Yes.
Berry pie. I just dropped a link in so we're actually doing an AI session. We actually have some gurus from Microsoft coming on the 30th that are going to be talking about AI. We did it in Northside AFT where Carol teaches, and it was really a great session. I learned a lot about how to simplify your lesson plans, how you can use AI in the classroom to make your workload decrease significantly. So I highly encourage you to click on that link and register for that. But with that, Rachel, thank you so much. She's awesome, and we definitely will be circling back around to her about those other topics that she talked about, because she lives it every day, and so it's always good to have an expert come on that is actually living it every day and knows the ins and outs. With that, Dr. Morales, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I did share a link for you to complete an evaluation form. We really appreciate your feedback. We use it to improve. So thank you for that, and just take a minute to complete it. And if you can't do it today, I will also send it out in the follow-up email. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, there was so Claudia will be sending up a follow-up email with the video recording and all of the resources that were shared, including the PowerPoint. I will email you each individually with your certificate. So, because there's no way for me to do that in bulk. So you'll receive your individual certificate in the next couple of days. So with that, thank you all and have a good evening.
The edge of the Red Sea, the Egyptian army was closing in.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I did have a question. I am a retired teacher.
Mhm.
And I came back, I'm in Aldine. I came back to specifically help a campus that I knew was in need I was an admin back in the day. I've done a bunch of different things. And so I knew from other administrators that a campus was in need. So I went back. Now, with that being said, I went back in a capacity I never did for 34 years. And so I was a resource Read 180 person with a 30-person caseload. This is fun. Okay, so, oh yeah. So with that being said, I don't have planning sessions. There's no one else on my campus that I do anything with. So therefore I'm by myself in the room 99% of the time during those times, just writing plaques. And I'm just curious because we also have had administration changes. Let me just say that. And so with the new people coming in who don't know you and you don't know them, and you're just kind of, you're already in the category that you don't really have anybody that you're with. My question is, how then, if everything is scripted now, in our district, it is scripted down to the minutes, and we are handed literal papers that we are to say each thing, kind of like back in the days, oh my God, of Success for All and all these other programs that have come down since the 80s, 90s, and to now, that I'm sitting here going, okay, we're back to being scripted. So my question then is, how can we in any way show some of these the things mentioned, other than obviously keeping up with all of the data that we do, but how would I specifically be able to show anything beyond? My kids are already so differentiated, let me say, because each one literally I'm having to address the plaque on top of whatever is already scripted. How then can we show that that is indeed being done? Because there is no planning session. There is no other time except somebody's just going to walk in there and say surprise.
I definitely understand. So so do you have instructional specialists on your campus? Like instructional coach or?
Let me say that the person oversped. I was the person's mentor last year. We won't even go there. And the person did not pass all of their certs this year, yet is the person oversped. Yes. Okay. So anyway, it's a bit difficult because we lost our SPED team for the most part. The campus was virtually dissolved. And so there's really no one, unless I go to the district level and I know all of them there. I just don't like to bother people, at that level. If it's something I can figure out and I can do for myself, but I'm on the flip side now of not walking into classrooms, but now someone's going to walk in and see me, and they're not going to expect that the person doesn't know what they're doing. But it is a very unusual situation when you are solo and you understand what is needed, but you also see the barriers, because things are scripted and timed, mind you. They're scripted and timed. So there's not a whole lot of place where you can differentiate or show something that is very different or above and beyond. Let me say that.
So the reason why I asked about your specialists and even your administrators, one of the things that we did with our Read 180 class was to give them a double block, because the program in itself, it does do the differentiation and everything else, but and it does monitor the students' progress and everything. But we try to double block it so that the kids could have that application piece that connects directly to whatever they were deficient in. So it was.
And we are But again, the district as a whole has put into place 20 minutes for the Read 180 app, 20 minutes for Let's Go Learn app, and then 20 minutes for silent reading. So you're kind of sitting there going, wow, so you have to find a place to pull people back to you, but it literally is to the minute. So
Gotcha.
that's why I ask. And without calling anything out, but I too right now at the 9th week have still not met with any administrator. Let's just say that, and they're all new. So I've been told, a matter of fact, by a couple of district people, just stay quiet. You know too much. Probably. So I do. I stay very quiet and to myself because, yes, I do see many things. But I'm just curious if I'm going to be on that side of the fence where you're going to come in and write something for me. How then? And I listened to everything. I notated everything and I understand all of it. But I'm trying to make it applicable to a particular position. I mean, our SLC people feel the same way, honestly, because I've spoken to them. And I really don't know how we can show something other than providing those physical artifacts, to basically show what you're doing.
So that is and you asked some really great questions because that would, I mean, honestly, because you're still a teacher on the campus, right? But you say you're a retiree hire, right? Is that accurate?
I think I'm losing the connection.
Yes, Rachel, I did hear her say she was retiree.
Okay.
Retiree and
So there may be some other ramifications that hinder them from giving you a like different evaluations or those type of things. But I would just go meet with the well, you said all of them are new, so they're probably trying to get their bearings or with this first year that they're in. But I would definitely, whichever one you felt like you're comfortable with, I would just have a conversation with them and say, hey, I have these ideas. I haven't had my pre-conference or goal setting conference or anything else, and I really want to these are the goals that I have that I want to work towards for these students, and these are some of the things that I'd like to implement, and I'd like your suggestion or your input as to how we could do that with having this type of scripted platform, because sometimes they may have to reach out to the curriculum leaders. They may have to reach out to the different specialists at the district level to say, hey, I have these teachers that want to implement these particular things, but their class is very platform heavy, to where you said you had what 2 or 3 different platforms that the kids are using within that class. So I think that yeah, just reach out. I mean, and I can't speak for every administrator, but I was always that administrator. If you come to me with something like this, I would be like, you know what? I might not be able to give you that answer right now, but I know people that I need to talk to in order to give you the relief that you need so that we can impact student achievement. And it's not to say that the platforms aren't doing their job, but you also don't want kids just sitting in front of a computer the entire time and not having that practical application. Okay, Claudia, I'm sorry, I saw your hand up.
Oh, no, I just wanted to provide an example. So when I was evaluating a teacher about a little bit over a year ago, they had this scripted curriculum called Eureka Math. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. In the way that she, because it is scripted and she had to follow the script, but there are gaps in that curriculum. So for example, the lesson I observed was counting by threes. In the script, they didn't tell her to use counters, but she knew that the students for that, class needed counters or they were not going to be able to complete that assignment. So she would bring in the counters to that lesson. So that is how she showed that she was going over and beyond, not just following that script, but, the script usually doesn't fit everyone in your class. So I just wanted to say that maybe that will give you
Thank
some
you.
ideas on how you can handle that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us that. But if you have any, you have my contact information. If I
Yes.
could look anything up for you to kind of help you with that situation, I definitely will.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm. All right, y'all. Well, I think we're good to go. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Have a good evening.
Thank
All
you,
right.
ma'am,
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Okay.